as a former student at GU, I was respected. Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning, Honorable Sikyong, Dr. Lobsang Sangay, Professor Sreemati Chakrabarti, Rebon Banerjee Dar of the Foundation for Nonviolent Alternatives, distinguished guests and participants. On behalf of the Tibet Policy Institute, I would like to thank Dr. Lobsang Sangay for taking time away from his busy schedule to give the keynote address at this conference. The Tibet Policy Institute owes a debt of gratitude to Professor Sreemati Chakrabarti for agreeing to co-host this conference and for lending the prestige of her department to the conference. We are also very grateful to the Foundation for Nonviolent Alternatives for its unfailing guidance in organizing the conference. We are also deeply appreciative of all the experts at this conference for their time and, more importantly, for their expertise and knowledge. The purpose of this conference is to take an unbiased look into the health of the Tibetan Plateau. One overriding concern is the overdevelopment on the Tibetan Plateau, which may prove catastrophic when natural disasters strike. The earthquake centered in Nepal in April is a clear warning. To examine the significance of the Tibetan Plateau and its impact on the rest of Asia are a group of very distinguished scholars. The Tibetan Plateau is an immense upland comprising an area of 2.5 million square kilometers at an average altitude of 4,500 meters above sea level, thus making it the largest and highest plateau on Earth. Seven Hayden, the celebrated Swedish explorer of Tibet and Central Asia, describes the plateau, and I quote, as the most stupendous upheaval on the face of the planet. This vast plateau is the source of Asia's 10 major river systems. Rivers like Brahmaputra, Indus, Yangtze, Yellow, Mekong, Salween, and others provide fresh water and sustain life for some of the world's most populated nations like India, China, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Burma, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. Chinese scientists refer to Tibet as the third pole and the water tower of Asia. The 46,000 glaciers on the plateau feed the 10 major river systems that water much of Asia and sustain almost 47% of the Earth's total human population. In some scholarly circles, alarm bells are ringing that China's development activities on the Tibetan Plateau, especially its damming and diversion schemes of Tibetan rivers, will have a catastrophic effect on the rest of Asia. In his study, Water, Asia's New Battleground, Brahmachalani says water is Asia's new oil. Michael Buckley, author of Meltdown in Tibet, brings his chorus to a higher pitch. His book draws attention to the critical importance of Tibet's environment to the sustainability of development of Asia. The Chinese government denies all these. In its latest white paper on Tibet, it says, and I quote, serving as the important ecological safety barrier in China, Tibet's role is significant not only in Asia but on a global level. In recent decades, in keeping with the economic, social, and natural laws, Tibet has avoided development at the expense of the natural environment. Instead, it has followed a sustainable path compatible with the harmonious existence of economy, society, and ecological environment, unquote. Viewed in this environmental context, the problem of Tibet goes beyond the Tibetan people and touches on the day-to-day existence of millions who live downstream. To examine these issues, are a group of experts who are here today who will share their independent research findings with us. Now it's my privilege to invite Professor Sreemati Chakrabarti to give the inaugural address. Thank you.
Honorable Dr. Lobsang Sangay, Mr. Thupten Sampal, Ms. Rebon Banerjee Dhar, all distinguished guests, friends, colleagues, and students. I really feel honored to be here today. Although designated as the chief guest for this seminar, I consider myself among the hosts of this event. The Department of East Asian Studies completed 50 years of its existence in the year 2014. During this period, several seminars and conferences have taken place, but for the first time, I'm really happy to say, we have an event completely devoted to Tibet. I'm also very happy that the Tibet Policy Institute and the Foundation for Nonviolent Alternatives have considered us as a collaborative partner in organizing this seminar, which is very aptly titled, Only One Tibet to Quench Asia's Growing Thirst. We hope that in the future too, we will jointly organize seminars on similar and related topics. In the last 4 decades, environment and ecology have become hugely important areas of study and research. When I was a student, a school-going student, we did not have environmental studies as a subject as part of our course. But today, its importance cannot be exaggerated. Speedy development harms the environment, but at the same time, development cannot stop. The development versus environmental protection debate is heard all over the world. In democratic societies, people's movements keep a check on government's development plans, which can be potentially damaging to the environment. However, in authoritarian societies like the People's Republic of China, the story is quite different. Today, we will be hearing scholars and experts who will analyze the various factors which are degrading Tibet's environment. I hope the deliberations today will help us understand the situation of the Tibetan Plateau, how much it has changed over the years, and what is the impact of these changes now and in the future. I also believe that this seminar will be academically very rewarding, and all of us will learn something from it. At the same time, I think it will create interest among our students to study and research on Tibet. Tibet studies needs to grow and develop in this country, and it's high time that it starts. In that process, if the Department of East Asian Studies, Delhi University, makes even a tiny contribution, it will be a matter of great satisfaction for us. With a lot of hope and belief, thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sreemati Bhattacharya. May I now request Honorable Sikyong of the Central Tibetan Administration, Dr. Lobsang Sangay, to kindly deliver the keynote address.
I have nothing much substantive to say, but I thought at least I should show my face so that the people sitting at the back end will at least see my movements of my lips, you know. But as a Tibetan, especially as a former student of Delhi University, I think it's a great honor and privilege, and in fact a pride, to see that Delhi University is hosting an event on Tibet, and also to see that East Asian Studies for the first time is organizing an event on Tibet, as you, Professor Sreemati Chakrabarti rightly said, because having spent, I think, almost of the 16 years that I spent at Harvard, I think I used to frequent Fairbanks Center and an Asia Center. Tibet is often the topic avoided. As we all know, China doesn't want to see or hear debates on treaties Tibet, Taiwan, and Tiananmen. And then it's often at the edge of the university where human rights programs are there, they discuss Tibet. Then slowly it comes to democracy side. Then sometime it crosses to Asia studies. East Asia, very rarely. Now, once you enter the protected territory of East Asia, I think that's a huge symbolic gesture on the part of East Asian studies, and perhaps a small, can't say achievement, but small contribution from Tibetan side as well. So I think it's very appropriate that Delhi University, of all the colleges in India, the most prestigious, I'd say, and I believe it because I'm from DU, the most prestigious university in India, DU is hosting an event on Tibet. So in that sense, really would like to congratulate and thank our chief guest, and I can clearly see the experts are here who will give you all the details of Tibet. And by the end of this day, I think you will feel so cold because they will talk about the glaciers and the glaciers and the glaciers, and then maybe you will feel so wet because they will talk about the water and water and water. So I think it's appropriate that in this at this time in Delhi, we need to get some cool feeling from the glaciers of Tibet and some watery feeling. And the water of Tibet is obviously clean and pure. Hence, all of you, Sreemati Chakrabarti ji, Professor Avanti Bhattacharya ji, I had the privilege of hosting her in DU, in Dharamsala, and we had very good discussion on many aspects. And Professor Madhu Balaji, Milan Chand Sharma ji, Professor V.C. Bhutani, and Claude RP is here, and obviously our own Tibetan students, one Lobsang Sangay and Zamlatemba Gyanzila from Tibet Policy Institute, and then Professor Chandan Mahanta for to give the closing concluding remarks. Now, as far as Tibet is concerned, I think we often try to make the case that Tibet issue is not simply for 6 million Tibetans. It has larger implication, and a lot of others also have stake on the issue of Tibet. Civilizationally speaking, obviously Tibet is one of the ancient civilizations. I think to see our civilization assimilated or disappeared will be an unfortunate comment or commentary as far as world history is concerned. Because we really don't want to be a museum piece and say, this was once a Tibetan civilization, so what you see here are some pillars and some roofs, and this was what used to be. So civilizationally, I think we can go at great length to talk about the importance of Tibetan civilization. And then, directly with India, His Holiness Dalai Lama always says that we are Chela and India is our guru. Because the Tibetan civilization, the Buddhist civilization that we talk about of Tibet is from Nalanda University, from the Nalanda tradition of Buddhism is very much practiced in Tibet, was obviously before the Cultural Revolution, during the Cultural Revolution was really destroyed. 99+% of monks and nuns were disrobed. 8% of monasteries and nunneries were destroyed. But still now what you see in Tibet, the revival of Tibetan Buddhism, especially with the contribution from exile. And when you go to South India, you visit Tibetan monasteries everywhere, in Delhi or Rajput and Dharamsala. Those monasteries are actually, it's a revival of Nalanda tradition, Nalanda Indian tradition. So we have rebuilt the Nalanda institutions all over India, and we have brought back the Indian Nalanda Buddhist practices. So that is our contribution. So when we often say there's a Tibetan monastery, but actually it's Indian Nalanda influence monastery. So civilization we can talk a great. And geopolitically, Nowadays, when I give talks all over India, especially in IIC and around, there's a keen interest from geopolitical, from strategic point of view, how vital Tibet is, how Tibet is at the center of South Asia, ASEAN and Central Asia. And now people in the security and defense all over the world are taking keen interest because we have India and China, the most populated countries. And I think the former CIA chief said the armed race in this part of the world is at a rapid scale. And then Tibet is the buffer, the border between the two of the largest countries. So, and then from human rights and freedom angle, there we can say a lot about Tibet. And obviously, from historical point of view, Tibet's status being an independent country now under occupation, we can dwell on all this. But now, as far as Tibet, as far today's topic is concerned, given the size of Tibet, often people say, "Oh yes, I think you people are very nice, non-violent, and peaceful. We kind of like you, sympathize with you." But the size of Tibet is, according to one estimate, 2.5 million square kilometers of land. It's as big as Western Europe combined. In the American context, it's as big as California and Texas combined. It's a huge territory. Now, from environmental point of view, so Tibet stretches 3,000 kilometers from east to west, and 1,500 kilometers from north to south. It's that big. From water and environment point of view, I think Sambila just hinted. Some experts say, before the wars were fought over land. Nowadays, wars are fought over oil. Soon, wars will be fought over water. And then, if you try to understand, I think there is a graphic picture as to why it's a likelihood. China has 20% of the world population. Obviously, these are the different figures, but one figure says China has 20% of the world population, but only 12% of fresh water. Now, 8% of the 20%, which is approximately between 400 to 500 million Chinese, are facing fresh water scarcity. Now, where do they go to get the water? Now, India population in the world could be anywhere 18+% or 17%. And as far as fresh water is concerned, condition in India is worse than China. Now, we were looking at 500 million Indians, facing scarcity of water. Now, Bangladesh is worse, Pakistan. So, and then you look at Nepal, you look at Bhutan. And all these countries are sharing water which originates in Tibet. Hence now, when you have almost 1 billion people facing fresh water scarcity, you can clearly see conflicts and tension. So obviously, we often read the dispute between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu over Koveri River, Jalalalitha is doing something, saying something, Kannada Chief Minister is saying, so you read about that. But then we also read about, Bangladesh and India sharing or not sharing, depends on Didi Mamata Banerjee, about Tista River. I think Prime Minister Manmohan Singh at that time made a major gesture and treaty was signed. But Mamata Banerjee at that time refused to join him because she was refusing on the sharing of Tista River. And it became a huge conflict. And then we have Indus River and Satluj River, which originates in Tibet, flows to India through Ladakh, Kashmir, and goes to Pakistan. Pakistan is often complaining, why are you building or not building dams on the other side? You are depriving fresh water for Pakistan. And it's a major source of, if not conflicts, at least complaint at the moment. But we can clearly see where it's going because the scarcity of fresh water. And then Bangladesh, Brahmaputra River originates in Tibet, goes through. And for Nepal and Bhutan also, the headwater of all these rivers that Bhutan and Nepal has, all originate from Tibet. Inner Mongolia too. So Mekong River, the Salween River, and Irrawaddy River, they all originate in Tibet and flows all the way to Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, and Vietnam, again from Tibet. And we know Yangtze River. We all have heard about the Yangtze Dam, the largest dam in China, in the whole world. Again, the Yangtze River originated in Tibet. The Yellow River, the cradle for East Asian studies, the cradle of Chinese civilization, originates in Tibet. Now, you can clearly see Tibet being the only one to quench the Asia's growing thirst. Now, the problem is, as I mentioned, Yangtze has the largest dam ever built. But then China has built about 87,000 dams. Has the most number of dams. Not just the largest, the baddest dams are also in China. Because some of the environmental, including the Chinese environmentalists, are saying this. Now in Tibet, rivers in Tibet, they're building not just 1 or 2, up to 10, 20 dams now for hydropower. But even Chinese expert, Fan Xiao, he's a geologist and chief engineer at the Regional Geological Survey of Sichuan Geology and Mineral Bureau. He's saying it's not that productive because you generate hydropower in Tibet, but the distance it has to cover to transport that electricity, you lose so much. So there's not much gain. But why are they doing it? So you can clearly see the importance. And hence, I think the expert is quite right when they say, was the fought over land before, now oil, soon it will be over water. Now, obviously, we read that China wants to build larger dam than the Yangtze River over Brahmaputra River. Now, if that happens, what will happen to the flow of water coming down from Tibet to India to Bangladesh? Some East Asian experts say, well, you can build dams, but it doesn't affect much. But then what you have is the control over the flow of water. China could release water when it's not needed. China could stop when it's needed. Then once, this is monsoon season now. Farmers complain, even the rain delay for 5 days to 10 days will affect their crop. So if they can tap on and off the dams, even for 10 days, even for 2 weeks, it will have a major implication as far as crops are concerned. So that control, in that sense, even water is becoming a strategic weapon for the Chinese government. And hence, unfortunately, why I say all these things is if Chinese government is amenable, it's a friendly partner, then it's all right. But they have made the intention very clear. In 1997, UN Convention of Water Sharing, they refused to sign. So they have not signed Water Sharing Convention of the United Nations. So they don't have to abide by any international norms. They have not signed it, and they sit on top of Tibet with all this vast reserve of water. Hence, the challenge. So what is the solution? And the solutions, I think, we always say, Tibetans have been the guardian or the steward of the Tibetan Plateau. We have always respected the harmonious coexistence between environment, economy, and society. We have always respected the water flow, natural water flow, and we have always shared water for free with the rest of Asia. So nowadays we pay, to buy water. But for more than 1 billion people, we have always shared our pure Himalayan mineral water with the rest of Asia for thousands that we have never charged. And we are willing not to charge again, provided our role as the guardian and the steward of Tibetan Plateau be restored. So hence, we always say Tibet is not just the issue of 6 million Tibetans. It is the issue of more than 1 billion people directly in Asia. Now, with all this, the damming and the global warming, some experts say that the rate of global warming on the Tibetan Plateau is double the rate at the universal level. Now, what happens is that Tibet has, I think, 45,000 glaciers, and they're melting at a rapid scale. Every year, 7% of Tibetan glaciers are getting melted. Now, according to NASA, 20% of Tibetan glaciers have melted in the last 40 years. And the projection is 60% of Tibetan glaciers will melt in the next 40 years. Now, why Tibet is called third pole? Because it has the third highest reserve of ice, the glaciers, after Antarctica and Arctic. The difference is Antarctica and Arctic, when they melt, the water goes to ocean. Tibetan glaciers, when they melt, it forms fresh water, turns into river, and provides fresh water and water to rest of Asia. Now, if 60% of Tibetan glaciers are melted in next 40 years, what will happen? Already 400 to 500 million Chinese are deprived of fresh water. Similar number of population in India, similar number in Pakistan, the similar percentage in Pakistan and Bangladesh. What will happen if Tibetan glaciers are melted at that rate? So that is the biggest challenge. Now, how do we maintain balance between environment, economy, and society? Now, we Buddhists believe in the balance in these three things, and I've always practiced that. At the moment, the damming of rivers, especially mineral exploitation, also has some connection with the rivers, and the deforestation of Tibet's forest also have some connection. We all know when there's major deforestation, what happens is that during monsoon there's landslide, and then it goes down the river. The silting of the river increases, causes flood. And suddenly you have this flash flood in Himachal and neighboring states. So you just wonder why. It has direct implication with the deforestation taking place in Tibet. Now China smartly banned deforestation, but only on the Chinese side of the forest area, not on the Indian and South Asian side. So because there was a major casualty, 10,000 people died or affected at one time. There was a major flood. So now they're banned, but still the trees are cut. But the number of trees which are cut and uncut, there's a difference. Indigenous trees are cut, and some of these, commercial trees are not cut. But on the Indian side, there's still deforestation is going on. So when the silting increases, the river flow, the height, the river level, water level increases, it causes flood. So often you read about floods in Bangladesh affecting 1/3 of the population. It has direct implication to what's happening inside Tibet. Now, because of all these challenges, because of the damming of rivers, I think China is trying to control the biggest asset, the gold of the 21st century, water. And that's the biggest challenge. And China has not signed the UN Convention of Water Sharing. And hence, Tibet issue is much bigger than 6 million Tibetans. Hence, we are here, and experts will, I think, give you more in details why it's important. So I'm here just to remind you all, just to give you a few things that I know. I think Professor Sreemati Chakrabarti rightly said we didn't have environmental studies in DU. So I used to write my bike and cause more pollution to the Delhi city by going all the way to Jorbag, where there's worldwide fund. So I used to take a course on, I took a diploma degree on environmental law. Hence, my small contribution. So I'm a part environmentalist, because whoever comes to my office after 5, or even during the daytime, they see, especially after 5, my office room is often dark. They say, why are you not turning the light? I say, you don't have to see me to talk. I'm saving, I'm saving electricity. So in a small way, we all try to environmentalists at an individual level, but at a macro level, I think Tibet is vital. Tibet as the source of Asia's water is vital. Hence, Tibetan role, our status as the steward or the guardian of the Tibetan Plateau has to be restored. If it's restored, we'll control the dams, because we will find a balance between economy, environment, and society. That's how we have functioned for many centuries, and we will do so for many centuries. So with that note, I want to thank all the experts, especially DU, and I must emphasize East Asian Studies for hosting this conference. And I hope DU will be the center where there is dialogue on the Tibet issue, and hopefully a solution. Then as an alum of DU, I'll say I'm so proud. I got elected by the Tibetan people, and DU supported, we found the solution as well. So in this day-long conference, we have some solution as far as environment and specifically water is concerned. With that note, thank you very much, because India is everything for Tibetans, because the largest number of Tibetans are in India. Central Tibetan Administration is also based in India. So India has done the most for Tibetan people. No one has done. Even though I've spent 16 years in America, I always say this, man, India has done the most for Tibetan people. And it is because the generosity of the Indian government, Indian leaders, especially the kind and loving people of this great nation called Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Sikyong. Before we break up for tea, I take this opportunity to request Honorable Sikyong again to kindly present our souvenirs to our honored guests and eminent speakers.
We are ending 5 minutes.
Professor Sreemati Chakrabarti, please. And our cohort, Ms. Rebon Banerjee Dhar. Professor Milap Chand Sharma. Professor Madhubala. Professor V.C. Bhutani. Professor Chandan Mahanta. Mr. Claude R.P. Professor Avanti Bhattacharya. Ms. Lobsang Sangay. And our researcher, Mr. Thampa Gelsen. Thank you, Honorable Sikyong. Thank you all so much.